Okay, so something huge just happened in the Ontario housing market. We're talking about March 30th, 2026, a date that marks a massive, maybe even a once-in-a-generation structural shift. In this explainer, we're going to break down exactly what went down and, more importantly, what it all means for your bottom line.
So here's the bombshell news. Premier Doug Ford and Finance Minister Mark Carney just dropped a major policy change. They announced an immediate 50% across-the-board cut to municipal development charges. Yeah, that hidden tax on new homes that everyone's been talking about for years, it just got slashed in half.
All right, so this is the question on everyone's mind, right? What does this actually mean for your wallet? Whether you're a buyer, an investor, or even a seller in the GTA, think Mississauga, Brampton, Hamilton, this fundamentally changes the math of real estate. So how much money are we really talking about here? Let's dive in and find out.
Okay, so before we can get to the savings, we've got to understand what this hidden tax even is. To really get why this cut is such a big deal, you need to know what they were cutting in the first place.
So what exactly is a development charge, or a DC? Think of it like this. When a developer wants to build a new community, the city charges them a fee. This fee is supposed to pay for all the new stuff that community will need. You know, the roads, the sewers, the community centers, all of that. But here's the kicker, and this is crucial. Developers don't just eat that cost. They bake it right into the final price of the home. So at the end of the day, you, the buyer, are the one footing the bill.
And we're not talking about small change here. The sheer size of these fees is honestly mind-blowing. Just look at these numbers from before the cut. In a city like Mississauga, it was over $135,000. In Brampton, you're looking at up to $140,000 per unit. That's before they even put a shovel in the ground. It was basically this giant welcome tax that made new homes insanely expensive right from the get-go.
All right, so that was the problem, a huge one. Now, let's get to the good part, the solution. Let's talk about the real, hard savings that are now on the table thanks to what we're calling the Ford-Carney cut. I mean, just look at the difference here. This really shows you how massive this policy shift is. Before, it was 100% of the DC rates applied. Now, a 50% cut right across the board. But it gets even better. They're also targeting specific types of housing. You see that? Purpose-built rentals and affordable housing projects are now 100% exempt. That is a huge incentive to get those specific kinds of homes built, which, as we all know, we desperately need.
And just so we're clear, this isn't just for one type of home. It applies to the whole shebang. Whether you're looking at a single-family house in a new suburb or a sleek new condo tower downtown, these savings apply. It covers everything. Okay, let's get down to brass tacks. What does this mean in actual dollars? Well, for a detached home, you could be saving anywhere from $45,000 to $65,000. For a townhome, you're in the ballpark of $35,000 to $50,000. And even for a condo, you're looking at saving between $25,000 and $40,000. I mean, that's not just a small discount. That is a direct, significant impact on the price of a new home. All right, we've gone over the what and the why. Now it's time for the what now. How do you take this information and actually use it? Let's build your 2026 game plan. Okay, for all you home buyers out there, listen up. The strategy here is something we're calling stacking. First, you lock in those DC savings we just talked about. That's $25,000 to $65,000 right there. But then you stack the potential federal HST removal for new builds on top of it. You add those two together and suddenly you could be looking at a six-figure discount. That is a massive difference. Now, for the investors in the room, this is what you could call a rental revolution. Seriously, that 100% DC exemption on purpose-built rentals, that's an absolute game changer. Your cost to get into a new project is slashed. That means your potential return, your cap rate, suddenly looks way, way better, especially since rental demand is still through the roof. Okay, but what if you're on the other side? What if you're trying to sell a home that's only a few years old? Well, you've got a new kind of competition. Pre-construction just got a whole lot cheaper, so your strategy has to change. You've got to lean into your biggest advantage, the no-wait factor. You're not selling a promise of a home in 3 to 5 years. You're selling a home someone can move into right now, and that immediate occupancy is a huge selling point. All right, let's step back for a second and look at the bigger picture, because a change this big obviously brings up some important questions about the long-term effects. You know, this is the first thing everyone asks, and it's a fair question. Won't the developers just pocket all the savings? Well, probably not. And here's why. Basic market forces. Right now, the GTA has a ton of unsold new homes, the most we've seen since 2017. So competition is fierce.
If a builder wants to sell their units, they have to be competitive on price. That means passing those savings on to you. Most experts think that somewhere around 70 to 80% of this cut will end up right in the buyer's pocket.
Okay, so the next logical question is, if cities aren't collecting these massive fees anymore, who's going to pay for the new roads and parks? It's a valid concern, but the province has a temporary fix. They've set up a 3-year compensation fund to make sure cities aren't left high and dry. This keeps the infrastructure projects moving forward while they figure out a new, more permanent funding plan.
And that brings us to a really crucial point. You need to think of this as a temporary window of opportunity. It's basically a government-subsidized discount on a new home. That 3-year fund for the cities, that's a pretty strong signal that these super low rates might not be here forever. This deal may very well have an expiry date.
So, that leaves us with one final thought. The rules of the real estate game have just been rewritten. The market has absolutely, definitively shifted. The only question left for you is, are you positioned to be on the winning side of it, and what's your move going to be to take advantage of this moment before that window closes?